Hello everyone, Lance Ippolito here, and it's Saturday night, September 17th. So what am I doing looking at the markets? Well, getting prepared for next week. FOMC, Bank of Japan announcement should be fun. So let's dive into the markets because we have to do a little bit of homework uh, to set up some of these large plays that I do feel will be valuable for this upcoming week of the September 23rd expiration. So FOMC Wednesday, Bank of Japan. A lot of news this week, should be pretty fun for the markets. SPX, or one can look at the SPY or the E-mini S&P futures. So why I'm looking at the SPX? Well, first, I do see here at SPX we are starting to turn to the downside. And what am I exactly looking at? Well, on my dynamic wave indicator, or dynamic wave trend indicator as I like to call it, I am starting to see price reject the wave moving lower. So every time we trade in the wave, we sell off. Get in the wave, we sell off. So I do see price right here in the September 8th start to diverge and move to the downside as the wave crossed here. And I do see price below the wave now, short signal firing here. I do have confirmation on the 4-hour we're starting to move yet. Really just looking for that daily, 2-day, and weekly to turn red to really fire all those triggers that were moving lower. That is the first thing I'm looking at in the SPX. And we never broke really this 2120. So I do think once we break it, we're going to have some extreme selling, which could be triggered for FOMC. One thing I'm looking at, now we did have here in the NASDAQ, and I'll give credit where it's due, a beautiful move here in the NASDAQ futures right at this 4,800 level again that we cannot really move. We can't break out to it. It's like a magnet, really. We sell off, we were just retraced right back to it. It's just a crazy level with a ton of buyers and sellers coming in at 4,800. So we did see a breakout on the NASDAQ. Fully aware of that. Fully aware of that. But once we get up here, 48.40, 48.30, 48.20, we normally tend to see sellers step in. So just something to point out there. And I'll give credit. NASDAQ performed phenomenally. I think 2% up this week. I actually played it some for some nice trades. And a big credit goes out to Apple. But looking here at Apple, we saw some rejection at 115 on quad witching Friday. I did a fib extension from their low right prior to earnings where they had a nice gap up to their high, to the swing low here, and it is literally, Apple tagged it to a T, that 100% fib extension. Let's say markets do rise post FOMC and everything is just 100% bullish again. I am looking for 120 and then that 1618 at 125. Something to consider. Massive volume in Apple. But I do think, let's say if Apple moves lower or just kind of quiets down, that NASDAQ will quiet down as well. So I'm looking at that. And then some markets here like the Dow, one can look at the Dow futures, starting to look ugly here. RBC markets coming out saying they think about a 4% move can happen in the S&P and the Dow to the downside. And they're pretty conservative. I tend to like that report. And then the Russell 2000, the Russell looked really bullish at 1263.5. Looked to be that high right around 1290. Never got there, never got to 1300. Kind of a red flag there in the Russell 2000. So now let's get to gold. So I am leaning, I'll admit, to the downside in the market. I think it trades lower all the way till the end of September. Next, let's look at gold. A couple of things I like in gold, almost like a double win scenario, and let me explain. First of all, this 1300, 1310 level in gold. Very, very heavy support. Right here in gold. See a nice bounce, a nice bounce. Just buyers coming in gold right around 1310, which I love to see. So yes, we did have, and I'll call it a low volume move lower in gold over the past few days. But I just think gold long term, this whole box here, we're just coiling up for a big move higher here in the gold market. I really think 1350, which is not that crazy of a move. It's only about 35 points. And then eventually 1377 by the end of September, possibly even 1400. I am looking out there, gold 1500 beginning of 2017. And if gold does move lower, let's say just gold sells off and continues to sell off, look for this high volume bar here on gold at 1254, 1255, right around there. I think that will be a nice downside target there in the gold futures. Traders can look at GLD. Really all these names kind of just trading sideways here. GDX seeing some mixed option activity, could be hedges. And GDX, the gold miner. So, I'm getting on my indicator some short-term sells and some longer-term buys. So the trend is mixed, which I have to agree on. This is a mixed trend, but still I do feel like that bull trend is there in gold. And also looking here in gold longer term, I do feel like we broke out and we are starting a bull market in gold. Really at the beginning of 2016, I think the bull market started in gold. Something to keep an eye on there. Next, let me look at silver here. Silver, it's just another kind of player one can use to trade gold. Silver, I do like it at 18.5 if it trades a little bit lower. I will admit, some of these silver names like Silver Wheaton Corp, SLW, a little bit more volatile, incredible runs in these names. Looking at this thing went from 10 bucks to 30 bucks. Pan American Silver, some of these names got hit pretty hard over the past couple months, like 5% a day. Something to keep an eye on. One can look at PAAS, SLW, SLV, silver ETF. I do like the metals, gold and silver here, especially. I feel like they're just coiling up for the Fed to push them higher. Next, let's look at the Japanese yen. Bank of Japan does have an announcement, I believe Tuesday night. I do like this yen. Just everything triggering buy on the yen. I can't imagine Bank of Japan doing something wild. I do think it retests this top up here like a magnet. So if you're an option or a stock player, you don't trade the Japanese yen futures, feel free to check out FXY, the Japanese yen ETF. I have, based on my indicator, buy, all coming across the board on every time frame. Price above the wave, up arrow last. I am looking for that prior top here, right around 97, which is about a $2 move. And looking at the options market, no, Baba, I don't want you, although you are beautiful. Looking at the options market, I am basically looking, even for next week, the implied move is just shy of $2, so it kind of makes out right to that 97 target. Pretty cool how that works there in FXY. And implied volatility is elevated, everyone, here compared to the following week. So just remember that. You could always go out to the next week if you're a short-term trader too. And really, even looking like at these 95 calls, let's say I could get them for 80 cents. If I go out to the weeklies, so it's expiring now in 6 days, basically I'm paying only a dime more to go out to September 30 expiration, and I have, a whole nother week for those options to work. So something to consider. Obviously, if you're not option seller, you want the higher implied volatility there. So I think that is it. Quick rundown on bonds, actually. I don't think I covered bonds. I love bonds here. 165. Just, oof. I mean, here's how I look at it. Fed doesn't raise rates, bonds rise. Fed does raise just a small uh, rate hike. What is it, 0.25, something very small incremental. And they just say, well, and then we'll continue to be data dependent. I think bonds just move up after that too, because the Fed goes back to being complacent and data dependent. Now, if they say we're going to raise rates December, we're going to raise, and then we're going to raise, and every meeting after that, okay, then I'll say, wow, the 30-year bond futures could be in pain. That's aggressive, but I do think that's a small chance, and I just love this huge distribution. Buyers coming in bar right here, right where we're at on the charts. I feel like that's a pretty large home run. One can always look at TLT. Starting to see TLT actually break the wave to the upside. Looks to be starting to move to the upside there. No position just yet, waiting for next week. But TLT, another way to play the 30-year bond futures. And just look at this, everyone. This is just TLT. This is a weekly chart. This is incredible. I say it's very hard to think, bonds are just going to crash. And let's say U.S. equity prices do get hit, like I'm thinking. Let me hide everything here. Let's say equities do fall. I do think that's bullish for bonds too. I really can't see every asset class falling. I can't see equities, bonds, and gold falling. I think that's just too outrageous for the market. So bullish on the yen, gold, silver, bonds, bearish on U.S. and especially, I didn't even cover it, European equities, especially that EWG, which we saw a large put buyer come in. EWG, I believe it was Friday morning, that EWG Germany ETF, one can look at it instead of trading the German DAX. Every time frame here, it's just a beautiful call up here as the sell fired, price below the wave, and the DAX really triggering on every time frame here as a sell, and then saw some large traders come in. Let me actually pull it up here. I believe it was Friday. They went all the way to October and 34 days and bought about 45,000 of the October 25 puts there. So that is a very, very large trade here. Could be a hedge. We'll always keep that in mind. I don't know the trader stock or the portfolio stock position, but these are buying of these puts here in October. You see 20,000 bought at 48 cents, 15,000 bought at 50 cents, and then 10,000 bought here at 45 cents. So a large trader coming in, and also too looking at the DAX. If you have a German DAX futures chart, really rejecting that trend line, moving lower too. So pretty bearish on European equities, U.S. equities. I tend to think, if both of those markets fall, they'll move in sync. And also, you could even look at Brazil starting to move to the downside. A couple things to consider for next week. Hope everyone likes this analysis. Feel free to shoot me a message or an email. Enjoy the weekend and get ready for FOMC.